Okay. So in the last session, we completed up to the role assignment to user, right? So we create a new user called as Google. And what are the roles earlier we assigned to ERP3 user? The same roles we assigned to this user, and we provided data access for the same, and we submitted LDAP to for role synchronization. What are the roles we assigned for the same roles? What are the primary ledger we assigned to sync in the system LDAP directories? We submitted LDAP job. Now we'll continue from here. So after completing this, to proceed with the payables configuration, what are the other setups we have to do? So primarily just we'll go and create the procurement agent. We have to create, say create procurement agent. Okay, so it's nothing but buyer. In EBS, what we do is after creating the employee we can select in the buyers list, right? Just it's all about selecting into buyers list so that system will understand the employee would be acting as a buyer. So the system will allow that specific buyer or say employee to record the procurement related documents. Okay, purchase orders. Here it is slightly different when you compare with EBS. It's a slightly different. So how it is different? You can specify the procurement agent can work for which documents and what sort of access is required. Everything you can set at procurement agent definition level. Okay, so that's how it's a slightly different. Anyway, we'll see that. Yeah. So we'll see in the system how that procurement agent can be created. And before that, we discussed few points related to procurement agent at the time of user classification, employee user and implementation user, whom we can create as a procurement only employee, right? So employee can be converted as a procurement agent. Only procurement agent can create supplier sites. Okay, and along with these points there is some other information which we have to understand. We'll discuss that. Okay, so just just as a task we have to create the procurement agent. After creating the procurement agent, we'll see the reference data set concept. At the time of business unit creation and location creation, we just used common set. Okay, what is the meaning of common set? How we can create the reference data set? How the reference data sets can be useful in the configuration process? We'll discuss detail level and we'll be testing in the application. Okay, now we'll go and see how to create the procurement agent. So our user is Google. Let's log into the instance. And go to our implementation project. Okay, click on the username, click on setup and maintenance, and go to task panel and click on manage implementation projects. Click on overview tab, and here is our project. Just open this project and search for the task called as procurement agent. Procurement agent. Okay, the same task is available with the 3 different navigations. You can choose any one of the path to navigate to that page. Okay, since we are dealing all the setups for financials, we can go with the financials path. Click on manage procurement agents task and click on go to task icon. Select business unit. So business unit selection is mandatory to navigate to this form. After getting into this form, we'll be creating the procurement agent by selecting the specific business unit only. But before you just get into that form access, also we have to select BU. Select and add value into business unit field. Click on apply and go to task. Now select our business unit. Okay, our BU name is Google US Business Unit. Select and say save and close. Done. Okay, just to access this page, we have to select the business unit. As a part of procurement agent definition, again we have to select business unit. We are trying to create procurement agent for which BU. Okay, so this is a page where you could see existing business procurement agents. Here below you can see for which business unit, which procurement agent, I mean which employee is acting as a agent, nothing but procurement agent. Fine. We'll see how to create the procurement agent. Just click on create. Just click on create. Select procurement agent. Which business unit you can treat as a procurement agent? For which business unit we enable the business function called as procurement, that business unit we can call as procurement BU. Okay. So it's all about the BU will be acting as a procurement business unit or requisition business unit based on the functions which we enabled. As a part of our setups, we enabled the business functions. We discussed as a task as assign business unit business functions. Here we just enabled all the business functions for our BU. So for which business unit we enable or assign function called as procurement, that BU we can call as procurement business unit. It's all about depending on functions which you enable. So we have our business unit called as Google US Business Unit. If you are not able to see that business unit here, that means we have to understand the procurement business function is not assigned to our BU. If you assign procurement business function to your BU, then only you can see that BU in this LOV. That's it. Okay. Now we can find our BU in this LOV. The reason for our BU, we enabled all the business functions. Okay. So we'll go and select our BU. Okay, Google US Business Unit. So in the list, what are the business units you are able to see? For all these BUs, procurement business function is assigned. There may be a number of BUs in the system, but you may not see all here. The reason is it totally depends on which business functions you assign to those BUs. Select our business unit as a procurement BU. Who's the agent? Agent is nothing but the procurement agent. So select your employee. Employee name is just we given as a Google, right? So search. So Google INC. Say OK. Now you may set default requisition BU for this agent. When this agent is going to work on the application, which requisitioning BU should get defaulted in the process whenever this agent creates some requisitions. That you may select. For the same business unit, we assign the business function called as requisition business function also. So because of that reason, you can see in this LOV or BU, if you don't assign requisition business function to this BU, here in this LOV you don't find that RBU. Okay, so we can see the reason we assigned. Done. In case of EBS, it's a very simple process. We go to buyer's definition page. There we select our employee into buyer's list. That's all. But here you can set the permissions. You can give the some access privileges to this buyer. This buyer called as Google current user. Okay, can work on which documents, which procurement documents, all you can set up. Okay, so you want to allow this buyer to work on the requisitions, you should enable the checkbox. By default all are enabled, so you can give the permissions for specific documents. Purchase, manage requisitions, manage purchase orders, and manage purchase agreements other than standard purchase order, whatever we have as a contract blanket, all the documents. So purchase agreements, and negotiations, which we use in the sourcing. Negotiations, sourcing programs, and catalogs, manage supplier qualifications, and spend authorized. These all are like some analysis related reports and all. So for now, we required procurement agent with the privileges called as supplier creation. So we have to make sure that the manage supplier checkbox is enabled. If this checkbox is enabled, we can use this procurement agent to create the supplier definitions. Okay, so rest all are not mandatory for us. If you are going to work on purchasing application, then only we require requisitions, purchase orders, and rest and sourcing case these privileges. For now, we require procurement agent with this option. Okay, no issues. By default system enabled all. We'll proceed with all. So the same procurement agent we can use when we work on P2P cycle also. But notice, for everything we have certain separate privileges which we can allow or disallow. We can restrict. Okay. And other point here is say you are allowing this procurement agent to create the purchase orders. Fine. So what are the purchase orders will be created by this procurement agent, that can be viewed or modified by the same procurement agent. If you want to allow the same procurement agent for other agents documents, okay, other agent documents, here you can set the privileges. If you set view, this procurement agent can view other agents documents. Which other agent, you cannot specify. Any other agent document, any other procurement agent documents, this agent will be able to view. Okay, just view privileges. You can specify, you can give modify privileges. If you set modify privileges, this agent can modify the documents which are created by other agents. Modify in the sense it's all about changing the data within the document. And we have other privilege called as full. Full means modifying the data within the document, along with that performing some actions on the document, canceling or canceling or just whatever, like what are the keeping on hold, what are the actions we perform on the documents, and what are the functionalities are available to manage the document, all can be performed by this procurement agent. View means just this agent can view other agents documents. Modify means what are the document is created by other agents, that can within that document what are the data we have that can be modified by this agent. And if you set to full, along with the modification, data modification, this agent can perform certain actions on the other agent documents also. So this is how we can give the privileges depending on which agent we are creating this definition. You may set required privileges based on your business process. Okay, so these are the points we have to understand. When I talk about default printer here, just you cannot find printer here. When I talk about printer related installation, we know in EBS or DBA install the printer, right? DBA can install the printer and they can configure in the system environment. In case of Fusion Cloud, in cloud, the printer installation and configuration need to be done by Oracle DBA. We have to write SR to Oracle, okay, saying that just we want to just connect the printer, and they'll be asking us to provide some information. We'll be sharing based on those details. They'll be just integrating, installing, and just connecting that printer. That's how you'll be getting the printer respective printer value, which is mapped with your instance or call it as a pod. So this should be this printer installation or configuration should be done by Oracle DBA. When we work for our clients, we'll keep in touch with Oracle Cloud team by raising SR for the printer installation and configuration. So these are the points we have to understand. Okay. And one more point here, when I talk about procurement agent, say for example, I'm creating supplier site. I'm creating supplier called as XYZ. Sorry. Say we have a supplier called as XYZ. I'm creating site 1. So, and say we have a business unit called as Google US business unit. For Google business unit, we have a agent called as Google, right? We made Google as a agent, procurement agent. Now we created Google as a procurement agent for Google US business unit. Say we created one supplier, we have a supplier site. What we have to do is the supplier site we have to assign to business unit, so that from that business unit we'll be able to record the transactions against that supplier site. So now if this Google is going to assign this site to BUs, this site can be assigned to only this business unit by Google procurement agent. And say you have one more business unit. Okay, Yahoo US business unit. So if this Google procurement agent wants to assign this site to Yahoo US business unit, it's not possible. If you want to make it possible, what you have to do is you have to create Google as a procurement agent to this business unit also. So then only that procurement agent can assign the same site to other business unit. Say you have a 10 business units and you want to assign one site to 10 business units. In that case, you have to be created, the user, the procurement agent, you have to be created as a procurement agent in the system for 10 BUs. Then only you can assign the site to 10 BUs. Okay, the point is very clear. Which employee is acting as a procurement agent for how many BUs? For those BUs only the site can be assigned. So this is a very important point we have to understand. Now this Google procurement agent can assign any supplier site to only one business unit, that is Google US business unit. The reason the Google employee or user or procurement employee is acting as procurement agent only for this business unit only. So these are the points we have to understand when we talk about procurement agent. Any questions here, please?
Yeah, Lakshman, if how does it go for requisition and purchase order? Like, does the person need to be agent for the BU needs to be assigned to that person agent record, and then he can
That's what we
do
are
the
doing.
requisition?
So what we are doing, we are making this user as a procurement agent for procurement and requisition BU as agent. So without procurement agent, you cannot create any documents. Here we are giving permissions for this Google procurement agent. We are giving the permission to work on all these documents. You see the requisition purchase order. We are allowing this your procurement agent to work on these documents only for this business unit. For procurement, this BU, requisition, this BU. When you say procurement, the agent can create purchase orders, requisitions. When you say requisition, the requisitions can be requisition BU, requisition for this requisition can be created by this agent. That is the meaning of this definition. We are making that employee as a procurement agent for specific BU by specifying the permissions, which documents, okay, which documents access should be given. And we discussed one more point. For the same agent, if you want to give the access to other agent documents, here you can set up the same point we are discussing. Any questions, please? Okay, so and one more point is, if you are creating the supplier site and if you are assigning supplier site to any BU, in that case this condition is applicable. Okay, say you have one supplier site and you have 10 business units. If you are assigning one supplier site to 10 business unit, that employee should be defined in the system as a procurement agent for 10 BUs. Then only that employee can assign those one site to 10 BUs. But if you are loading the supplier definitions into system master data, so in that case system won't look for that same user, from which user you will load the data into the system as a data conversion. It won't verify the user is defined in the system for as a procurement agent for all the BUs or not. There this condition will be ignored in the data conversion process. If you are creating the suppliers and if you are trying to assign the sites to specific business unit, which user is trying to do this manual activity, system will just have a, system will have a check in the process. The data conversion it won't look for. Okay, any questions here please? If no questions, we can just move on to next topic in the sense configuration point. Fine, no questions, you can say save and close.
Lakshman, in that case, we can use that supply set for any business unit, right?
You can assign supplier site to a number of business units, same as EBS release 12. In 11i we cannot do, right? Supplier and supplier site we create within the operating unit in 11i, EBS 11i. In release 12 what we can do, one site can be assigned to multiple operating units. The same logic is applicable here also, same solution they taken here. There also you can do, but there is no check which is related to procurement agent. From any user if you have access to payable super user responsibility, you can create site and you can assign. Before that you should have access to that operating unit which you set through profile options. Okay, if you have access, if you provision multiple operators access to specific responsibility by using security profile, for how many operators you have access you can assign. But here it's not like operating unit related access. The procurement agent privileges if available, then only you can assign, otherwise you cannot see. Okay, any questions please?
Yeah, Lakshman, I have a question. So in EBS, we have like suppliers as parties. How does it work in Fusion
Sorry,
here?
suppliers
In EBS, we have suppliers as parties.
here also
Like
parties, suppliers, same model, TCA model, just they taken into Fusion. Suppliers, customers, legal entities, banks and bank branches, all are parties of TCA. Yeah, that model remains same. Fine. Okay, so yeah, please.
Uh, I have one question. Is there any MOAC concept here in Fusion?
What is that?
MOAC, multi-org access control.
Yes. We are going to test that also. I mentioned the same in the course curriculum. Okay, in the course curriculum also written clearly as we are going to cover. We have MOAC, security profile definition, but it's
Okay.
slightly just in terms of definition it's slightly different. In case of EBS we have security profile and a global security profile, okay, which you create based on the one BG or multiple BGs. But here it's everything just they made as a single definition. We'll discuss and do it, that we are going to cover as a part of fables. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So that's all about procurement agent. If you have any questions on this please. Fine. Now I will just proceed with the
Lakshman, one question.
please.
So when you create suppliers using conversion, so can it be created as a spend authorize, or
Yeah,
it will be a prospective only?
because see now if you and me are going to talk about this point, this would be somewhat new point for others. So once we
Okay,
see
sorry.
that, definitely you can ask that question. See, now I can talk about it, I can answer to your question, but for all many
Fine,
people
no
that
problem.
cannot be right.
No, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. No issues. Just please let's consider that there, so that it would be very. It would be a good discussion all the time. Yeah, fine, done. So just to answer your question, just yes, that is possible. You can create as a spent authorized or any classification. The two classifications what we have, any option you can select. The template creation time, you can see that when you are loading the suppliers, we can select required value and you can do that. Possible. Okay.
Okay, but what I have seen is that you can, if you have to, if the supplier has to be spend authorized, then it has to be created by the procurement agent.
No. See, these two definitions are totally different. Okay, when we work on that
Okay,
concept, we'll
fine.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Supplier definition, what type of supplier, that is the point what you are talking about. Okay. Procurement agent, it's all about employee conversion. Employee will be converting as a procurement agent. Okay, these 2 points are totally different records. Okay, at the time of supplier creation, just we'll talk on that. Any relevant questions? Done. Fine. Now, if we talk about simple concept called as payment terms, say we have a payment term called as, say we have a say BU1, BU2, BU3. Just I'm taking 3 BUs here: BU1, BU2, BU3. In case of EBS, OU1, OU2, OU3. Say I'm going to create one payment term called as immediate. Another payment term called as net 45. You tell me, if I create these two payment terms, these two payment terms will be available in these 3 BUs or in specific BU. In case of our EBS, can be 11A or release 12. How it works?
All
You need
BUs.
to assign this payment term to specific operating unit in EBS, or how it works?
Available to
Not
all the
required.
BUs.
Available. These are the common definitions, right? The payment terms are shared across. So now my requirement is, so as per the business, we never use immediate payment term in BU3, and net 45 also we don't. These two payment terms we don't use in BU3. Only we use this immediate and net 45 payment terms in BU1 and BU2, and say net 10 we use in BU3. That means I want make available these two payment terms in these two BUs and only this payment term in BU3. Can we facilitate this in the instance or not in EBS 11 or R12?
No.
Not possible. You cannot set a control. But that is possible by using the reference data set concept in the Fusion applications. RDS. Okay. With a reference data set, what we can do is we can manage some setup data which is required for which business unit. So I'm going to create these three payment terms. With the help of reference data set, you can assign these payment terms to in which business unit the payment terms are required. So in Fusion, if you create the payment term, that won't be available in any BU until unless you assign that payment term to your business unit with the help of reference data set. What we do is we create the payment term and we assign the payment term to specific business unit. Say for example, I'm creating payment reference data set called as RDS. Now I'll go on to assign this each payment term we have to assign to RDS. So I'll assign that this net 45 to RDS. So net 45 payment term is required in BU3. Now what we have to do is this RDS we have to assign to BU1. That's it. Now if you go to BU3, BU3 can have access to only one payment term, that is net 45. How? Through RDS1. Now BU3 require access to one more payment term, that is immediate. It's very simple. Already RDS is assigned to BU3. Now assign immediate payment term to RDS. Now two payment terms are assigned to RDS, reference data set 1. The reference data set 1 is assigned to BU3. Now The BU3 can have access to two payment terms. Now the same payment terms required by BU1. BU1 required immediate and net 45 payment terms. The immediate and net 45 payment terms are already assigned to reference data set. Now what you can do is assign RDS reference data set to BU1. Now BU1 can have access to these two payment terms with RDS. Now BU2 is required payment terms called as immediate and net 10. What we have to do? With that combination we don't have any RDS, right? We don't have. So BU2 require access to immediate and net 10. So if that is a requirement, you have to create one more RDS reference data set. And now which payment terms required for BU2? Immediate and net 10. So assign immediate to RDS2 and assign net 10 to RDS reference data set 2. Now assign this RDS2 to BU2. This is how you can just give the access for specific payment terms. Say we need all the payment terms in all the business units. You may create one reference data set called as reference data set name. I may provide as all. Reference data set name is all. Then assign all the payment terms to this all reference data set. All, how many you have? All. One payment term can be assigned to multiple reference data sets. So three payment terms, okay, I assign to one reference data set called as all. Now I'll remove all these assignments not required now. We assign that reference data set to, okay, reference data set to all. Sorry. So that's how you can use the reference data set concept in the application. So just we are taking example for payment terms, not only for payment terms, for many concepts this reference data set is applicable. Now just the three payment terms, okay, the three payment terms we assigned. One second. The three payment terms
Hey Lakshman,
and we assign to one reference data set that we are assigning to three business units. Three BUs can have access to these three payment terms.
hey Lakshman, I have a question.
Please.
So it's just like using value sets, right, in ABS.
Value
Is
set
something like
similarity.
the reference data set. Yeah.
Similarity you can see, but if you assign value set, okay, the values you create within the value set, but here when you talk about this payment terms and other definition will create as a common will be grouping. Will be grouping
Okay.
and will be provisioning. See what the values access you can compare with value set, but it's totally different. It's all about grouping here. Which values for which BU we want to provision that you can set up.
Okay.
Yeah. Some similarity you can see, yes, that specific segment will create some value sets. Those value set can be accessed from that segment only. The values point of view, the similarity you can see, but concept wise, it's not very much relevant. Similarity we have got. Fine. So any questions here, please? So this is the purpose why we have a reference data set. So this reference data
Lakshman.
concept is, yeah,
Lakshman?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, we can possible to assign multiple RDS to a single BU.
Yeah, one BU you can assign multiple reference data sets, but we have to understand 2 points. See here, so I'm taking BU1. and say this RDS is applicable for BU related data. One is payment terms. This I'll show you in the system. You can understand more better. Yeah, answer is
Okay.
yes. And again, there is one point we have to understand. Okay, BU
Okay.
creation time, only one RDS you can assign. After creating the
Okay.
BU, so within the BU, what are the different concepts will fall under RDS? Those concept level you can assign n number of. We'll see that.
Okay.
Definition time,
Okay.
whatever you select, that would be defaulted to that BU specific all RDSs. There you can override for each definition. You can use different RDS. That point I'll show you and we'll discuss, and I'll answer to your question there itself. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The answer is yes. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, but I am confused. Like I think I missed you where you were discussing how all is getting assigned to the BU 1, 2, 3. I followed you till like when you were creating RDX 1 and RDX 2. You were talking about for the immediate and net payment 10, but after that I lost you.
Okay. See, at the time of BU definition, we created BU, right? Hope you attended for that session. The BU creation time reference data set we used. Do you remember? We use in common set, right? At the time of definition, I was just talking about that point here. Now we just it's all about we are selecting the value called as common set. Just notice that and remember. We'll discuss later. That's what I said. So instead of selecting the common set over there, you can select all. Say I'm creating BU1. I'll be selecting the value called as all. I'll take you through that. Any other questions, please?
Lakshman, did you say that the RDS is only used for the payment terms or for something else also?
There are many other objects where we use the payment terms. The reference data set. I'll show you the list. As a part of definition, I'll show you the list. It is applicable in most of the applications for different setups. Okay. Just I'm taking as a example. Primarily, this reference data set can be used in payables for payment terms. We can use for many concepts where normally the BUs will have a requirement of sharing the data across. When you are doing some setups which would be specific to BU, that sort of configuration, if you want to share, you can share with other BUs or you can restrict. But when you talk about payment terms are not BU specific data, but still they applied this reference data set concept for payment terms. We have a big list. I'll take you through that. So here what we did, we selected common, right? Instead of common, you can select all here. That means we are assigning reference data set call as all to BU and create one more BU. Okay, create one more BU and that BU creation time also select reference data set. Default set is nothing but reference data set. Wherever you see the term call as set, that is reference data set only. Here you have in this field you have to select that all. Okay, so anyway we are going to create our own reference data set also. There you can understand that point. Fine. So this is how just you can define the reference data sets. It's a simple point. The purpose of reference data set is to share the setup data across the BUs if required or else to restrict. Okay, simple point. For data sharing requirements, you are defining something. Okay, you are defining something as per EBS or as per standard product. That may be BU specific data, but still if you want to share the data with other BUs, you can use the concept called as reference data set. Through reference data set, you can provision as that information should be available for other BUs also, or else, okay, that should be available only for specific BU. Okay, how you want to share the data across the BUs. When you talk about our financials BUs, when you talk about FA, we know FA doesn't work at operating unit level as per EBS. Infusion same, not at BU level. It's a books level, right? It's a major, everything will run the transaction flow based on the books. When you are defining something within the fixed assets, that has to be used within the specific book or across the books that you can specify. We'll see that. Okay, but the purpose of reference data set is to decide how the data can be managed within the application, whether that should be shared across. If you want to share across how many BUs, that also you can list out, and if you want to use within the specific BU, that also possible. Okay, we'll understand once we create and see in the system, we'll understand detailed process. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So right now with all, it would give access to all the BUs, but then we will create in system different reference data sets which would have only access to specific setups,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
immediate payment.
you can do that. So that's what I take in the earlier example, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's how you can create. Or I'll see, for example, your requirement is you have 3 BUs. For each BU, one payment term you require, for example, immediate for BU1, net 45 to BU2, net 10 to BU3. In that case, create 3 reference data sets. You can give the reference data set name also with the BU name. You can give the name as, so BU1 set, BU2 set, BU3 set. For BU1, how many payment terms you require
Hey,
assigned to BU?
Lakshman.
Yep.
So these reference data sets are only for payment terms, or we can add anything for these reference data sets?
It's not like adding. There are certain objects for like where this reference data set is applicable. There are many objects, many data objects. One of the data object name is payment terms. Okay. One of the data object name is payment terms. There are many objects where this reference data set is applicable. As a part of setup, I am going to show you that list.
Okay, so can we reuse these payment terms RDSs for any other database objects, or we have to create separate ones?
I didn't get your question. Reuse in the sense reference data set you want to use for other BUs, or?
Yeah, let's say BU1 set we created, is it a RDS which we created for payment terms?
Yes.
You said we can also use RDSs for different database objects.
Yes. Same reference data set.
So,
okay. See, you created BU1 set. For that, you are assigning payment terms. Yes. Other objects also you can assign to same reference data set.
okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Other objects other than payment terms, what are the other data objects are comes under a reference data set concept, all you can assign to the same. This is all about just name for identification. So payment terms you can assign, or anything else you can assign which are related to reference data set. Yes, possible. You can reuse as you asked. Yes, fine. So any other questions here, please? Once we see in the system, it would be more clear. Just I am trying to introduce this concept here. Okay, that is a purpose. It is applicable for many concepts that we'll see. Fine. So now what we'll do is, first we'll see how to create the reference data set. It's just a very simple definition. It's all about providing the name. So for our understanding as a part of setup requirement, what we'll do is, so first we'll go and create the reference data set. So create reference data set, RDS. Okay, we'll create the reference data set. So after creating the reference data set, what we have to do is, we have to assign any one of the reference data object to that reference data set. Here we'll go with the best example in payables is payment term. Okay, to test this, to understand this function, this reference data set. So for that reason, anyway, as a part of payables, we require payment term. We'll create the payment terms. Say create payment terms. We may create one or multiple. So create payment terms. Okay. After creating payment term, that payment term we have to assign to reference data set. Create payment term and assign payment term to RDS. Okay. Say here, if you take this example, we create immediate payment term that we assign to BU1 set. Now the BU1 set, reference data set, we have to assign to specific BU, right? This is required, okay, for which BU that we have to assign. The same we have to do as a separate setup called as assign reference data set to business unit. Any chance we assigned reference data set to our BU as per our previous classes? Did we assign
Yes.
any reference data set to our BU? Whatever the BU we created, Google, US business unit.
Yes, I
Yes.
think we assigned it.
Yes,
Assigned common.
we assign. So remember that point. Then what is again this assignment that we can understand? Already we assigned reference data set to our BU at the time of BU creation. We given common. But again here we are going to assign. It's reality, it's not assigned, overriding. Okay, what is the meaning? How that and what scenarios under those points we'll discuss. But as of now, the standard process, just remember assign reference data set to business unit. Fine, done. So first we'll go and complete these setups, and then we'll proceed with other configuration. Okay, so we have to go and create the reference data set now. Go to our implementation project. This task you can perform from the project or from outside of the project. Okay, anyway, let's try to do everything from our project only. Search for reference data sets. There will be a task called as manage reference data sets. Okay, just click on the same task, manage reference data sets. Click on go to task icon. Here we can create the reference data sets. Click on create. We have to provide the set code, set name and description. The set code we can just whatever we define in the application, we go with the prefix as a Google. Okay, since that's what we are using for all the definitions. Since code
We already created one reference data set, right? Where did it go?
sorry,
We already created an RDS when we created a BU, right? So
we didn't create.
why can't we see that?
One second. We didn't create. We selected which is already available.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that is a common that you can see here. If you want to see common, search with the common. The display name is common set. Right. This is the one which we selected at the time of BU creation. Right.
Okay. Okay.
In the fresh instance, you can see only two reference data sets. One is common, other one is enterprise. Okay, in the fresh instance, these two you can see as a default values. Within this instance, you can see big list which are created by the guys who are practicing on the instance. See here, you can see many. These all are created. But in the fresh instance or any instance, you can see only two by default. Those are common and enterprise. Okay, that's how they given the naming. Yeah, please.
The common and enterprise are the one we see in the fresh instance. So do they have any? They don't have any BUs assigned, right? They don't have anything assigned.
Do you find fresh instance any BU?
No.
That's it.
So Yeah. So my next question is like, can we use the common and then assign the BU to it? Is that also possible since it's nothing is assigned to it?
See, common we here they created as a part of all with the meaning of all common. Whatever you create that you can assign to common, that means you are trying to share the data across all. With that purpose they created. Enterprise they just created name where you may segregate the data enterprise wise. Just as
So
a
we can assign
sample
all the
definition they
BU
give.
to common.
Sorry?
So we can assign all the BUs to common.
You can assign anything to all. Okay. See, common you can assign, you have a 10 BUs. For 10 BUs, you can assign the common. If you want to assign 10 BUs common, whatever you create, those you have to assign to common first, right? Say you are creating the payment terms. Assign all payment terms to common. Assign common reference data set to all the BUs. Then you will be able to access to all. You don't want to segregate and maintain the data. You want to go with the common access. Got the point?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just naming convention they given common means it's like all. If you want to use it or else you can create your own. Okay, if you want to segregate the data and maintain separately or BU wise, if you have a 10 BUs, create 10 reference data sets BU wise. You may create with the BU name. Okay, so that's how you can do it. It is just default values you can see in the instance. Every instance has a available. You will be creating your own and you will be doing. So once we complete this concept, you'll get a understanding, complete understanding what we should understand when we work on the system with respect to a reference data set. Okay, but the point here is only two you can see which are default, predefined. Okay, common and enterprise. Common is the one like normally we to use for just all purpose. Okay, everything, anything. See, you are not creating any reference data set. In that case, use common. Wherever reference data set is required, use common. That's it. That means you are not going to segregate the data. That's what we did also at the time of primary ledger. What we did, by the time we didn't create any reference data set, so we selected common. Fine. We'll see that once just you create and assign, and we have few more points to understand. So once we're done with that, you'll get clarity on this. Fine. So we'll see how to create the new reference data set. Okay. Fine. This is the navigation. Task name is manage reference data sets. Click on create. Set code. Set code is here. We can give the name as Google US BU set. Okay, I'm just creating BU specific reference data set. Google US BU set. Here we can write Google US business unit set. The same you may take as a description also. Then say save and close. Okay, done. Now what is the next step? We created reference data set. Now we'll go and create the payment terms and we'll assign those payment terms to this reference data set. Search for payment terms. Okay, just we create a reference data set. That set we are going to create the payment terms now. Those payment terms will assign to this reference data set. Without assigning the payment terms to reference data set, you cannot access the payment term. Okay, task name is just we are searching for payment terms. The task name you could see here as manage payment terms. The below one is receivables payment term. So you can just click on manage payment terms with the path of financials. Okay, so already our business unit is selected in the scope, but anyway here it's not required in the scope, but they given the scope selection. So default. Fine. Here you could see payment terms which are already defined for practice. Like there will be few payment terms which are predefined, like immediate and few other. When we'll create our own payment terms, click on create. We'll create one payment term called as Google Net 45. Okay, let's create with this name. And here you can specify the installments. The same like how we create payment terms in EBS, same process. Just click on add installments. Here you can say, so 45 days payment term we are creating, say 100% due should be cleared within 45 days. Done. So for this installment, if you want to give the discounts, in EBS we can set 3 level of discounts. In that form you can see 3 different tabs. So the same they given here as a like discounts, first discount. Okay, you can just here you can specify the first discount related information here, second discount, third discount. Here also 3 levels only discounts you can set if you want to set apply. Okay, say you don't want to set discount applicability, you created payment term. Now just we given the name and we just given the due percent 100 should be paid within 45 days. Now this payment term we have to assign to reference data set. If you scroll little down, here you can see set assignment. Click on add. You can assign this payment term to our reference data set. Or reference data set. Here you could see reference data set code, whatever the code we given, that code. Done. So we assigned the payment term to our reference data set. One payment term can be assigned to multiple reference data sets. If you want to assign the same payment term to other reference data set, you click on here, click on this add, it will open the additional field here, you can add. Okay, so this is how you can assign one payment term to multiple reference data sets. So now you can say save and close. What we'll do is we created a one payment term, that one payment term we assign to our reference data set. Now we'll assign one more existing payment term to our reference data set, right? So we'll go with the immediate payment term. Just look for immediate payment term here. So here is the immediate payment term. Just click on the name, it will open the definition. So this is the immediate payment term. So we'll assign this payment term, immediate payment term, to our reference data set. So here we have a set assignment. See, already this immediate payment term is assigned to reference data sets, many reference data sets. Okay. Now we'll assign the same payment term to our reference data set also. Okay, just click on assign. Scroll little up, you could see the field is open. Assign this payment term to our reference data set also. To this Google USBU set, we assign two payment terms. One which we created, the other one is which is predefined payment term. Now say save and close. Okay, so done. We created reference data set, we created payment term, the payment term we assigned to a reference data set along with the payment term which we created for other existing payment term also we assign to this reference data set. That means total two payment terms we assign to our reference data set. Now we have to assign our reference data set to our business unit. Already at the time of BU creation we selected one reference data set called as common. Okay, we'll go and see that. So now we'll proceed with this task and we'll discuss how that at the time of definition whatever we assign, how that would reflect, how we can overwrite. We'll discuss those points. Fine. Okay, before that we'll just proceed with that, no issues. So the point here is, so we'll go to payment business unit, manage business units. At the time of business unit creation, what are the reference data set you select that you cannot override at BU level? Okay, so if you have a plan of maintaining the separate reference data sets for BU wise, before creating the business unit, you have to create your own reference data sets which are BU specific. Okay, so after creating the business unit, if you want to change the reference data set, you cannot change. See here, we selected common. You cannot override. You cannot change to our reference data set. Okay, if you want to go with the separate reference data set BUI, say you have 4 BUs, you may create 4 reference data sets BU specific. Then at the time of BU creation, you can select here. So if that is your plan, so before you go and create the business unit, create reference data sets, and at the time of creation, you select here. Okay. If you don't select here, if you select common here, how it works, we'll see. You'll be able to override, but not from here. So this reference data set is applicable for which data objects for any BU. The object level you can override. We'll discuss. One of the object is payment terms. Here the task which we are going to perform is assign reference data sets to business unit. Okay. So the task name is manage business unit set assignments. By using this task, okay, by using this task called as manage business unit set assignments. Set assignments means the reference data set assignments to BU. Okay, we can override. We'll see that. So task name is here, what we are trying to do, assign reference data set to business unit. This is the activity we are going to perform. For the task name is manage business unit set assignment. Just click on go to task icon. So now we want to assign the reference data set to which business unit, that you have to select. Just go with this value selection and click on apply and go. The BU name is Google. Click on search and select it. Don't click on the name. If you click on the name, it will open the BU definition. Just click on the record space. Okay, click on save and close. So this BU creation time, we given the reference data set called as common. So in which scenario, for which concepts this reference data set is applicable means for all these concepts. See, reference data objects. The reference data concept is applicable for apply hold reasons. In AP, we use the holds, right? Holds concept. For that, it is applicable. And cancellation reasons, close reasons, not only for payables. So the BU is specific to which applications. The application, for what are the different applications we map at BU level, for all those they given. See, customer related, customer accounts, receivable related, dunning, advanced collections, okay, grades, jobs, okay, customer relationship management, and payables, payment terms, pricing rules, pricing application. It's primarily order management process and project accounting related. See, these all reference data objects you can maintain separately. These are all definitions you can maintain BU specific if you want to maintain. So pricing rules you can maintain BU specific. You can create pricing rule and that you can assign to specific reference data set. That reference data set you can assign to specific BU so that those pricing rules can be accessed by only specific BU. In the same way, project related rates, the projects we create the costing rate schedules and billing schedules, right? All those you can maintain BU specific. Okay, all receivables related setup. See, all like in receivables memo lines, receivables payment terms, okay, auto cash rule set, application rule sets, and receivables aging buckets. So these you can just create and you can maintain, okay, specific to particular BU, or only those should be accessed by two BUs or three BUs or all BUs. Okay, all you can set. So whatever oracle given, those only you can make use of for this reference data set. We cannot include any new into this list. See here. So we discussed about just payables payment terms. Like payables payment terms, there are many other concepts where this reference data set is applicable. So at the time of BU creation, what are the reference data set you provide, that would be defaulting to all the reference data sets for the same BU. Now you can override. For all the reference data objects, you can keep common only, but for payment terms, you can override. For payment terms, say we want to use, we assign those payment terms, right? So here you can override. We can select our reference data set, what we created. Search, select. Okay, so done. Only payment terms, this BU will have access to from this reference data set. How many payment terms are assigned to this reference data set? Rest all it will access from common. Okay, by default, like just in the vision instance, so common only is used for any definition. Most of the cases they used common as a part of vision solution demo environment. They use a common. So this is how you can assign. Any questions here, please?
So, Lakshman, at a very high level, is it correct to assume that reference dataset are created to restrict or allow access to BUs, and then
Not to access BUs, to allow or restrict specific BU data or setup data, you can say.
okay,
You can
and the
find the
other,
reference data sets to allow or restrict specific setup data for the BUs. Yeah, please go ahead.
okay, and and the procurement agent is created for the access to the BUs or restriction to the BUs for a site creation. Is
Yeah,
it correct to assume?
the 2 points are totally different. There's no relation with the reference data set when I talk about BUs. This procurement agent. Procurement agent is totally separate definition, which you can provision to specific BU. Okay.
Okay, so if through procurement agent we give a agent access to creation of a requisition and purchase order, and then but we want to restrict the agent for specific BUs, then that would be controlled by the reference
Procurement
data
agent,
access set, and then
procurement agent only.
okay,
Yeah. So at the time of procurement agent, you have options right below, like you are creating procurement
right,
agent form. For which BU that employee is procurement agent, you can select. Then you can specify which documents you want to allow, right? So that's how we have a provision over there.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, fine. Just okay. Just from your side also, you just try once in the system. After doing that, you may get more understanding. Still, if any questions, definitely we'll discuss. Yeah, please.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, please go ahead.
I asked the multiple data set assigned to the view.
Yes.
Your option is only one.
Not only one. Here you can assign. This is a BU. BU level only one you can assign. So these are also BU level only. These are all the different data sets BU level. You can assign here object level many. This also comes under BU. BU level whatever you assign, that would get default for all the reference data objects. So
Okay.
to this BU only you can assign for each reference data set separate reference data set. For one BU you can assign multiple. As of now you can see two only. Common for all the reference data objects except this. Definition time one, but in terms of level, okay, reference data object level which is specific to BU multiple.
Okay, if I need a payable payment term, for payable payment term, I need two RDS. It is possible
No,
to
no,
assign.
not possible. One reference data object, only one reference data set.
Okay.
Okay.
For every object, for every data object, we can assign only one
Only
RDS
one.
only,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. One business unit you can have multiple reference data sets with respect to reference data object. That
Okay.
means reference data object specific you can have multiple reference data sets for one BU. That is the point.
Okay.
Yep. Fine. Any questions
But
here?
we can override only
Yeah, yeah, please.
we can only override payment term RDS only. Other than that, we
No,
can
no, no.
override.
Any reference data object you can override. Now we are not working on those. That is the reason we are not discussing. See, place cursor, it will open.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Lakshmi. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Any reference data object set we can override. How all we are getting as a common creation time. BU creation time we selected common set. That is the reason that is getting applicable for all as a common. Or else you select your own reference data set at the time of BU creation, that would reflect here. Still, if you want to override with a different reference data with reference set, that you can override. That scenario also you can override.
Okay.
Any point of any scenario you can override.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Any questions here from anyone, please? Okay, so when we just do the implementation, whether we have to use the common or separate, that totally just depends. Like we may speak with our client. Normally, they prefer to go with just common if they have a need of segregating and maintaining the setup data. So in that case, you can go with a separate reference data sets, BU specific. So simple point is we can select at the time of BU creation. That's all. Fine. Any questions to understand this reference data set, please? Anyway, we'll see the how it would get result.
Lakshman, you are
Yep.
not using any reference. That means the
No,
data
no.
is
One
applicable
second.
for all the business units.
You said we didn't use any reference. What is that? We are talking about reference data set or what?
Uh,
What exactly?
reference data set. So there is no concept of reference data set as per the client. So that means the payment
Yeah,
terms,
no, no.
whatever
See,
we created.
point is there will be many cases which we come across when we work for the client. They don't come back to us saying that I need so and so reference data set. We have to talk to the business saying that see in payables just you maintain for each department, sorry, each branch or each unit you maintain payment terms. So will it be fine to share any payment term across the all, or you want to maintain separately? You don't want to allow that business to see payment terms which are created in one branch by other branch. So this is how the generic based on the functionality how it facilitates. We ask the questions to the client. So based on their answers, we can decide. They says whatever we create, I may create for so and so branch. Say for example, these points also will be asking. So when you talk about applying the holes, so most of the branches will use the similar holes and all. Like, do you want to, if one creates that can be shared with other branches? Okay, do you want to go with that scenarios or else whatever you people create that you want to restrict? Since you have a many hold reasons, many release reasons, so these points we'll discuss here. We'll take the key points out of these roles and payment terms and some dunning. Okay, and we'll go with the receivables payment terms and project related pricing, etc., etc. We'll discuss. So in that case, a client is saying everything we want to share across, but only project rates we want to limit to specific BU only. In that case, use common, and only for project rates use separate reference data set. That's it. Fine.
Okay.
All reference data objects, they are saying everything we use common only, but only the concept called as project rates. We don't want to allow one BU to see other BU related project rates, what they are offering to the clients or what they are billing or what they are just calculating in terms of cost. They don't want to allow. In that case, only for project rates only, create separate reference data set as a project rates reference data set that you may create BU specific. For respect to BU, you assign that. Remaining all, you may go with a common. So in that case, BU creation time also use common. So any reference data object related set you can override anytime, right? So that's how you can manage. Totally depends how they want to manage their setup data and how they want to share the setup data across the BUs. Okay, so any other questions?
Yeah. Is it okay to override the reference data set code at any time for the object?
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, anytime.
Any implications that anything we need to consider if we do it after the transactions are done?
See, whatever the data you have access, based on that you can record the transactions. So once you create the transaction, if I just set a restriction, from the time onwards you cannot access that value. That will remain in the system, but you cannot access, that's it. Okay, so that's how it works. There won't be any issue. Any point of time you can restrict, or any point of time you can provision to access. Okay, fine. Anytime you can do it. Anytime you can do it. So fine, this is all about creating the reference data set and creating the payment terms and assigning the payment term to reference data set, and finally assigning the reference data set to BU. Reality, it's not assignment, it's all about overriding. Since we assign reference data set at the BU creation time, the same it would reflect to all the reference data objects. So whatever system is defaulting, that we are overriding with our new reference data set. Okay, we'll see how that would be resulting when you do the further setups. So as per the current reference data set, when we are doing the setups for our BU, Google US Business Unit, we should be able to see only two payment terms. Only two payment terms only we assign to our business unit, I mean reference data set, right? So that is a point we have to understand. So now we'll just go with the next task. So in case of EBS, we have a financial options. Okay, like the financial options, basically we configure for payables and purchasing, even that is connected with the fixed assets also. That means the financial options are shared across payables, purchasing and assets. There is no great usage of FA other than employee information sharing through BZ, which is mapped in the financial options. But primarily the financial options we use to just to share the data. Okay, the setup can be shared across purchasing and payables in EBS. So here you don't see any setup called as financial options. The same financial option name they changed as a common options for payables and procurement. Yes, reality, financial options are common options for payables and purchasing. So the task name they given as common options for payables and procurement. Okay, now equal to financial options here, or else the financial options only here we call as common options. Say setup or configure, so common options for payables and procurement. Okay, we have to set up common options for payables and procurement. These are equal to financial options in EBS. It can be 11i or release 12. Okay, financials options. Okay, we'll go on to complete this setup. So this setup also we can do only from the project. Reason, we have to select, we have to go with a selected scope as a business unit, then only you can complete this setup. Search for the task called as common options. Here is the task: manage common options for payables and procurement. You see the pop-up, or you can drag little right, you can see. Okay, manage common options for payables and procurement. Just click on this task. Okay, and just click on go to task. It's already, since we are within the project, so system is defaulting the selected scope, right? At the time of procurement agent we selected, so the same is defaulting. Click on go to task icon. So if you remember, in financial options we provide the same information. We provide liability account, prepayment, bills payables, the variance accounts, discount taken, right? All these accounts we provide, all the same information we provide over there, same we have to set here. So but in case of EBS, like you can see that this is maintained with the different tabs, right? Accounting information, supplier and purchasing, and the human resource tab, different tabs as the tabs they provided, but here in the single page they just did a framework where you can provide all the details in the single page. So now we'll provide these mandatory accounts, and when we are working on the relevant concept, we'll provide the optional accounts. When you work on the bills payables, we'll come back to this page and we'll give that account so that we can understand to implement so and so feature what setups are mandatory, where we have to provide which information and which controls we have to set. For now, we just proceed with the mandatory account field specification. Okay, liability account. Provide accounts payable account, which is liability account. So already we given this company department as a default values, right? So now select account called as accounts payable account. Go with advanced search. Starts with say accounts payable 22100. Say okay. Just we have to select prepayment account. So we'll be working on all this prepayment invoice creation process. So select prepayment account. Prepayments. Yes, you can copy and paste for this variance gain and loss accounts, no issues. So we'll select the discount account here. So anyway, we are not going to enter real transaction, there won't be any issue. Just make sure that you are providing the required field as required information. So here you can say discount. Just go with the value called as contains such criteria. Discount. So say discount taken. Any mandatory fields. Yes, we have a realized gain and loss accounts. Okay, so the accounts like exchange rate gain, loss accounts. Just select search criteria, say contains, say gain. Okay, realized gain account. Loss account. So if you just compare with the financial options, and as a part of financial options we provide inventory organization also. We'll be mapping with inventory, but here So you don't see any inventory organization selection. That is part of purchasing configuration now. So even this common options are equal to financial options in EBS. EBS will be we map inventory organization with the specific operating unit through financials options only. But that similar mapping we do as a part of procurement or say purchasing setups. Okay. As of now, nothing is mandatory. You can just proceed with this setup to complete. Say save and to complete. Okay, we're done with this. Now in EBS, we have setup called as payable options. Within the payable options, primarily you can provide defaults or controls related to invoice process and payment process. So the financial options are specific to invoice process and payment process. So in the same way, in Fusion, so already we have seen after creating the business unit, we assigned business functions. When I talk about business functions, we have a separate functions like payables invoicing process, payables payment process. Since the business functions we have separately, so we have a setup also separately for these options. We have a invoice options and the payment options separately. In case of EBS, that is a common setup which we call as payable options. So here we have invoice options and payment options. Say configure invoice options, then say configure payment options. So in case of EBS, the invoice related and payment related options they given as a payable options in EBS, but here they just segregated. Since the BU level we have a segregation of different functions, invoice related business function to payment related business function we have separate. So some of business units may involve in only one function also. So to facilitate the relevant setups for a particular business unit, they did this. In case of centralized procurement, normally you could see that. So these scenarios, that is reason just they given as a separate setup. We'll see how to complete it. So search for invoice options. So manage invoice options, click on the task. Just the invoice options are specific to BU. We have to select BU as a scope. Click on go to task icon. We'll just finish within 5 minutes, please. Just click on this selected add, then say apply and go to task. For which BU we want to set invoice options? For Google. Just click on search, select this record, then say save and close. Fine. The first point here is we just done with the reference data set definition assignment and BU mapping. So because within that our reference data set only we have a 2 BUs. For this BU only we assigned payment terms reference data set. So because of that reason, see you are able to see only 2 payment terms, Google Net 45 and immediate. Immediate is system predefined, so that is also there as a part of our reference data set, so that system is defaulting. That's it. Okay, so rest of you can just go through it. If you think something is mandatory, you can set it up, or else when we are working on the relevant concept, anyway we have to set up those. Okay, these are all like remit to supplier, third party payments, and when you work on that prepayment and approvals and interest invoice creation. Okay, when you're testing those scenarios, we'll be testing the relevant controls and defaults. For now, nothing is mandatory. Okay, just notice that point because of our reference data set which is assigned to our BU. So from this BU can have access to these 2 payment terms only. The same is applicable when you create the invoice also for this business unit. Okay, so nothing is mandatory here, just you can say save and close. Just but navigate, so that system will be selecting to scope, system will consider as you completed setup. So after invoice options, go to payment options. So in this stage you may not set at the time of implementation, based on requirement you may enable, but since here we are going to test, I'm not setting. Whenever we work on specific concept, we'll be setting up. Here also nothing is mandatory as of now. When you work on third party payments and other concepts, we'll be setting the required information. For now, just you can say save and close. So just this is how just to notice these invoice options and payment options which are equal to payable options in EBS. Okay, just we gone through that information. We didn't do anything. When we are working on the relevant concepts, yes, we'll go through and we'll enable and we'll select relevant values to support the respective process. So that's all for today. Okay, we're done with the session. If you have any questions, we can stay back and we'll discuss, or else we may drop from the meeting. Any questions?
Lakshman,
Please.
Lakshman,
Please.
Lakshman, I have
Yeah, please go ahead. Directly you can
in
ask.
EBS.
No issues. Yeah. Yeah. EBS?
Yeah, okay. Uh, After completing a payable option only, we can assign supply side to the operating unit in EBS.
Yeah. Payable options. Okay, yes. See,
After
no. That is
yeah. Now
not correct.
here,
No.
before,
It's not like payable options. So you can do that before payable options also. You will be able to do it. Frankly speaking, when I talk about payable options, there is no mandatory setup as a part of payable options. If you talk about supplier part, see in EBS 11i we have that supplier number generation as a part of financial options. Within the financial options only you have a supplier number generation. When I talk about fresh instance, we have to specify that. When you talk about release 12, EBS release 12, in financial options we don't have that option. That is moved to separate setup called as payable system setup. Okay, after completing that setup, it will allow you to work on the supply definition and assignment. So that's not mandatory. Take example, you are not implementing payables. Do you think you cannot assign supplier side to operating unit in EBS? You can do that. So if you complete that financial options, that system will allow you. System will allow you. In case of Fusion, we don't have that payable system setup. Okay, payable system setup you don't have, which you see in EBS R12. Here supplier number definition is a separate task. Once you complete, once you are ready with the supplier definition, it will allow you to assign. Without completing the finance payable options, you will be able to do it. It will allow you.
okay,
Yeah, it will allow.
okay.
Yep.
Lakshman, in R12,
Yeah.
we used to select the operating unit before assigning any function financial options. So is that concept not there for in cloud? Like assigning financial options to specific operating units or BUs?
No, 1 second. These points we have to notice. These points we have to notice. We are following that only. See, when you set the payable options or financial options in EBS, will go. Those are the screens, right? Forms. We'll go to that form and there will be LOV. You have to click on LOV. You have to select. Here also we are just doing how system is taking from scope. It is selecting. I'm going to invoice options already. For which BU want to set invoice option that already is in the scope. See, system selected. In case of EBS, you will be selecting from LOV, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. It's selected here.
These
And if we have more than one BU, then we can change it.
Yes, exactly. That's all. See, the setups, what level we do in EBS, the same here also we are following. The solution point of view, they didn't do much changes. That remains same. What level we do setups in EBS, inventory level, book level, and ledger level, OU level. The similarity, the same. They just move to Fusion. Some naming convention, how we select, how it just happens here. The framework you may see different here. Once you get into that form, you don't do it. Okay, before that you will be selecting to scope, that would get default. If you want to set the invoice options for other business unit, we know that you have to click on that value, then change to other business unit, and you will be able to set it. That's all. Yeah, any other questions, please?
Lakshman, in the ABS we have a secondary tracking segment
Sorry,
that is missing in EBS we have a secondary tracking segment.
secondary tracking. Yes, you are right.
Yeah, it is missing in Fusion.
Yeah, secondary tracking we don't have. So think like in the secondary, I mean secondary we have, that is one is balancing, other one is secondary. The secondary we call as secondary balancing segment also in EBS also, right? Secondary we can treat as secondary balancing, which you can use to track the returned earnings, CTA balances, or unrealized gain and loss in the other segment level. The similar to that, just they given secondary balancing and third balancing also here. As a name you don't see, okay, but we have a same functionality as a secondary balancing or third balancing. Even we have a secondary tracking segment for Xfill qualifier in EBS that can be treated as a secondary balancing. Directly they didn't give name in EBS. So since they introduced secondary balancing and third balancing, they removed it.
So the second balancing segment will be the replacing of the secondary tracking.
Yes, that you can take in that way. The naming convention they change. The functionality wise,
The
other
local use
segments levels also transaction can be balanced. Yep.
and there is a local use segment.
Your voice is bit low. Your voice is bit low. I'm sorry.
This one, the local use segment also is there. So this
That
one
is
is for
some localization purpose you can use it. So that is not the core usage of call label. Okay. Some specific cases, countries we may use it. Yep.
Lakshmi will be available for after this class so that I just can speak with you 5 minutes.
Sorry, the voice is going.
Can I call you on after this session?
Oh yeah, sure. Venkatesh, right?
The
Venkatesh.
number which is 8686. Will you able to?
Yes. See, your voice is breaking most of the time. We'll give you a call. Yeah. So after this meeting, we'll just I'll give you a call. We'll talk.
The number ending with 8686, your mobile number.
Yeah. No. I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give you a call. Fine. So any other questions from anyone, please? Fine. No questions. We'll connect tomorrow same time. Have a good day and good night. Thank you all.